If you know, you know. Romantasy, one of the most popular genres today, is, well, it's an interesting blend. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Rob. This is my mom, Karen. We are the host over at Books, Banter, and Beyond, the show all about books, bantering, and going beyond. Today, we're going to talk about romantasy, which is a pretty popular genre these days. And if you are familiar, then you guys watching will know exactly what we're talking about. If you're not, we're going to give you a simple explanation. A lot of this goes deep, but we're just going to give you the basics, and you can then go and, pick the books that you like the most. So, from the blending of the title, romantasy blends both romance and fantasy, giving you a little bit of both. A lot of times in a romance, you do get that kind of magic, so to speak. But these books literally give you, you know, real life magic, creatures, vampires, you name it, and it makes for a interesting kind of world building. Not only do you have the magic part, but you kind of get to see what romance would be in various terms and various couples. And I think you kind of get a little more, maybe more romance to it because you really have no limit on what you're writing about, being that it's part fantasy, I think. Um, it surged more recently, but for those who have read these books, you'll know that it just continues to go. And we'll go into a couple titles today that a lot of people have read. But I think it's just an interesting play on the typical love story.
So are these generally like a single book, or is it a series of books that
A lot
follows?
of times they will be a series, usually maybe three or four, depending on how long the story goes. Sometimes it could be a long, long series that just kind of keeps going. I don't know if I've personally ever seen one that's a one-off, but I'm sure there's probably stories like this that are.
Got it.
So let me give you guys a few examples, and I think many people out there have read these. I've read portions of these, but I know these are super popular. First one we have here is the Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. One of, I think, the first one of her series. This is about a human girl that's taken to a fairy land as punishment, but soon finds herself tangled up in basically the world of magic and of course, a swoon worthy romance, as they say. Sarah J. Maas has become one of the bigger ones now. I think you've seen her name around on some of the websites too. So, this is one of the ones that I think a lot of people have already read, and I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty good introduction to the
I'm putting
category.
it on my list. I'm putting it on my list.
There you go. Now, the other one here that's super popular by Rebecca Yaros, that everybody has heard the name, Fourth Wing, also does the same idea. In this case, we are at a Dragon Rider military academy, because why not? And it has the chemistry between the two main characters over basically the survival of the world that is under conflict right now. So again, it's a very interesting kind of Lord of the Rings meets romance esque. But if you think about it, a lot of fantasies do have this love story intertwined because a lot of the main characters in the fantasies have a very deep story
Right,
themselves. So
right.
this just kind of takes it to the next level in terms of where can we go from here with the characters and with the description, right? And the last one on my list here by Carissa Broadbent is called The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is called a vampire romantasy. So
Mm,
it specifically follows the vampire lore, follows a human named Oriah who is adopted by the vampire king and soon forms feelings for him while she kind of finds her place in the world here. So it's pretty interesting stuff, I think. And I think if you are a fan of romance or fantasy, this is definitely a blended genre that you would
right.
appreciate.
So, Rob, do you have a magical setting that just speaks to you? Do you like the Dark Kingdoms or the Enchanted Forest or the mythical schools? Which one?
I think I notice a lot of times it's always either a school of some sort that works. And I think it just makes sense because you would believe that at some point these people would be going here to learn
Oh,
their craft. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think because I've seen that often enough, that's probably where I would go. But a lot of these worlds seem very, very creative. So, I think each of them has their own little.
yeah. So, do you think it's important to have balance between the romance and the fantasy?
I think generally when you have a story like this, you want to make sure that everything makes sense and evens out. I think in fantasy, the problem that we've talked about before is that if you go way too over the top, you end up with just a very strange,
Not
one is
believable. It's
exactly.
cast
So
as
I think
believable.
yeah, so I think you want to make sure that you have both sides equal to a point. You can flourish a little bit here and there, but I think overall, if you want to make a good story, you want to make sure everything makes sense
So,
for the
do
reader.
you read? I mean, is this the kind? Are you reading these kind of books as well with the rest of? Because you research books and
I don't really read these too much. I've read portions. I've gone on, YouTube, and I've watched some stuff like that. I haven't really fully gone through, but I would say that if I wanted you know, just kind of a background, fun type of story, I probably would jump into something like this because it takes very little focus. You just kind of get to be in the
right.
magic, I guess.
It's funny because we've talked in the past weeks that I've really gotten into fiction books, getting away from my personal development and the nonfiction piece of this. And so as I look at this, the first one, the Court of Thorns and Roses, is pretty much in alignment with the kind of books that I'm reading. It's about a girl or a woman that goes somewhere or is taken somewhere and something happens. And I think that that speaks to me already. So I'm already in that reading, whatever you want. What is it called?
You're already in the world right there.
I'm reading those kind of books. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to go over to the Libby app and I'm going to have to see if the series. That's why I asked you, is there a series there? Because I like to read. I like to just keep reading about whatever it is that I'm reading. I don't like when I get to the end of the book and we're done.
It is kind of fun when you actually get to keep the story going a little bit. So,
And you don't even really know where the author's going to go other than
yeah.
right. And when you read the next book you go, oh, they decided to go in that direction. Very interesting. So what kind of fantasy creatures or tropes do you enjoy most?
I think in general, if we're not just talking here, I think generally I like the idea of kind of personal growth when the magic kind of builds the
Mhm.
character and the character realizes, as cliche as this sounds, that it was never the magic, it was always them. But I do like the ability where fantasy allows you to um, learn about who the character is, and the character soon learns, wow, I have this really cool power, but now I actually know what to do with it, and now I
Right.
know how to use it. So that's kind of my trope for general books, but I think it works really well with this
Sort
kind
of
of.
like the Wizard of Oz, right? You had the ability all along. It's not
Exactly.
magic. You don't have to click your heels 3 times. You had that all along, which makes us feel either really, really stupid that we didn't know that we had that all along, or really blessed. Um, so Rob, I'm gonna I'm gonna put actually I'm just gonna put up a this because we want to make sure that people go and visit the next chapter bookstore.shop. There are romantasy books in there. There's science fiction. There's straight romance, straight fantasy. There's all sorts of stuff in there, right? What am I missing?
A
Comic
lot,
books.
but we got a lot of different genres.
Right. So go check it out, guys. First of all, as you recall, this is a used bookstore, a gently used bookstore, which means that somebody else held that beloved book in their hands and they're passing their story along. You know how much I love that. I love the whole concept of this. So I hope you go check it out and get on the mailing list because I know you have events and things that are coming up. Get involved. Get involved. Any last thoughts, Rob?
If you guys haven't checked out this genre, I definitely recommend doing it. I think it's a fun time to be read. So.
I agree. So go out, give somebody an awesome day. We'll see you next time on Books Banter and beyond.